Welcome back. Another new tutorial for you. This week we will be tackling two systems, digestive and urinary. What's nice is these guys are pretty straightforward. They are new terms for you, but I'm going to help you make it as straightforward as possible. I actually love the digestive system because once you kind of crack the code that it's just one pathway all the way straight through, it's a lot easier than it first feels when you're learning all the new information. When we think of digestion, what it really is it's an entry point of your mouth, an exit point of the anus. It's just a garden hose. It literally is going like taking a hose from your mouth all the way to the anus straight through. We are going to take that straight through pathway first, and then we'll come back and talk about a few accessory organs that also help aid in digestion. So let's just start at the beginning. At the beginning, the first thing is your mouth. Now your mouth has teeth, tongue, salivary glands, all of them contributing to starting to break down food, the initial part of digestion. Mechanical digestion of crunching and really macerating your food. Salivary glands that continue to add chemical breakdown, really enzymes that start breaking down the food to a much smaller level. So we're going to enter through the mouth. We will swallow and go down the esophagus here. As the esophagus goes down, it goes through the diaphragm, and then it empties into the stomach. Now, the stomach, that's where we start mixing with all the stomach juices, the acidity. So stomach juices and your food together, we just call that chyme. With the stomach, there are four major areas. There's the cardia of the stomach, which is located right where the esophagus comes in because it's close to your heart. Now, in this trunk, I've removed the heart and the lungs, but the heart usually sits right here. So the cardia of the stomach is named cardia because it's next to the heart. You have the fundus of the stomach, the body, and the pylorus. The pylorus is like a funnel, starting to funnel everything to the next organ. Now, when you look at the stomach, you see a lesser curvature and a greater curvature. That just helps you understand how the stomach is sitting in the body. We've gone mouth, esophagus, stomach. The next organ that we're going to enter is the small intestine. The small intestine has three sections: duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. The duodenum is where we see all of the digestive enzymes really come in and start to break down more into smaller and smaller pieces so that absorption can happen in the jejunum and the last little bit of absorption in the ileum before we go into the large intestine. Now in the duodenum, we will see those accessory organs, your liver, gallbladder, and pancreas all start to contribute through there. But we're going to pause before we continue talking about those. Let's just continue through the garden hose from start to finish. Repetition, start at the beginning again. Mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine. Small intestine, you go through duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. And then the small intestine, you then empty into the large intestine. The first portion of the large intestine is located in the lower right quadrant of your abdomen. And it's a little pouching called the cecum. It's also where your appendix is located. From the cecum, you now actually come back up superiorly. So we call this the ascending colon. Up the ascending colon across the body. So across is transverse. So this is called the transverse colon. Then as we go back down, we will call it the descending colon. So from small intestine to large intestine, you empty into the cecum, ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, and then it's going to kind of snake its way down towards the anus. As it snakes its way through, it's called the sigmoid colon. Sigmoid means S-shaped. It's going to move through. Then the rectum is the last kind of holding tank. Your large intestine primarily draws water out and makes your feces compact, right? So as it's compact and holding at the rectum until the anus, actually the sphincter relaxes and loosens and allows you to defecate. So start to finish, let's review it one more time. Mouth, esophagus, stomach, remember the four areas? Cardia, fundus, body, pylorus. Stomach empties into small intestine. Three sections of small intestine. First one, duodenum. Second, jejunum. Last one, ileum. Small intestine empties into large intestine. First outpouching is called the cecum. Then we go up the ascending colon, across the transverse colon, down the descending colon, snake through the sigmoid colon, rectum, anus. That's the pathway of digestion. It is that straightforward. It's when we start pulling in all the accessory organs we get confused. So start with that. Understand that pathway, start to finish. Adding in the accessory organs. With our accessory organs, we have the liver, which I've removed here. Liver usually sits right here on the right aspect of your body, right below your lungs, your diaphragm, and just to the right of the stomach. Now this liver is where we make bile. Bile does emulsification, which means it just breaks down fat. And you want to break down fat into tiny little droplets so that as it moves from the duodenum to the jejunum, we can absorb fat. Absorbing fat is good in our diet, just not a lot of it. We have to absorb fat in order to absorb some vitamins like A, D, E, and K. That's a good thing. So bile is made at the liver. From the liver, it moves to the gallbladder. And that's this tiny little green bump you see here. It's really just a sac of storage of bile, so that anytime you eat, bile is ready on command and can be excreted out into the digestive system. Your pancreas really sits nestled in behind here underneath the stomach there. And the pancreas does multiple things. It has endocrine function, it has exocrine function. So it has hormone function that stays in the body, but then also helps with excreting out digestive juices to help break down different aspects of sugar in our diet. Something that you need to be familiar with is the pathway of bile and all of the enzymes from the pancreas. They both go through the same duct to empty into the duodenum. But let's start back at the beginning. With the liver, we are going to have a whole pathway that goes through into storage. We have the hepatic duct that comes from the liver and is headed towards the gallbladder. But then there's an offshoot of the cystic duct, which goes to, cyst just means like a pouch. And so the gallbladder is just a pouch. So cystic duct is going to the pouch to store and hold that bile until you need it. Then it will contract and squeeze out when you need it, moving along the common bile duct until it meets up with the hepatopancreatic duct. The hepatopancreatic duct, hep refers to liver, pancreatic, pancreas, right? So the juices of both liver and gallbladder headed down with the juices of the pancreas both come together and are excreted out of the same point into the duodenum together. That's the extent of the digestion. It's pretty straightforward. Now, there's more information in your lecture, on PowerPoint, and in your book. Please go back and familiarize yourself with that information. This is meant to be a simple, straightforward tutorial on what students often get mixed up on, because it's really more straightforward than it looks in the book. So I wanted to give you a little heads up on that. Next portion is going to be urinary system. And again, urinary system is relatively straightforward as well. When we look at urinary system, I'm going to draw it up here. I encourage you, when you are doing this and learning, draw out the digestive system, draw out urinary system, and label the structures, and then give quick bullet points of the function of each of them, because you need to be able to be aware, list the name and the function of all of these major organs. So urinary system, when you think urinary system, what do you think? Bladder, peeing, right? Good, so you already know part of the structures. We're going to start with kidneys first. Now we're going to do both sides because they're mirrored right and left. You've got two kidneys, right kidney, left kidney. And then coming out of the kidney are structures called ureters. And as we come through here, kidneys are filtering our blood. As they filter our blood, they draw out excess water, toxins, and as they do that, kind of the outer layer of our kidney is called the cortex. And then we have the medulla, which is really where a lot of that filtration occurs. And then the urine starts to form and gathers in the what we call the pelvis of the kidney and the ureter combined together. So urine comes down to the ureter, goes down the ureter, and is stored in the bladder. And we start getting rising levels of urine in our bladder. The bladder is really just like a cyst, a holding tank, right? Just like we saw gall bladder is a cyst holding tank for bile. Here with urine, the bladder is just really a big kind of cyst holding tank for fluid, for urine. Now, the bladder is lined with epithelial tissue, but it's actually muscular in nature. So it is a muscle, and when your body tells you it's time to urinate, it will constrict and contract and force the urine out of the urethra. And the urethra has an external orifice, an opening to the outside. Looks different in male versus female. Female, it's much shorter. Men, it's longer. That's just anatomical, right? Where students often get confused is ureter and urethra. Very similar, but two different structures. But that's it. There's really just four major structures when we're looking at urinary. Kidneys, ureter, bladder, and urethra. That's it. Hopefully this helps you with your studying, and it'll make things a little bit easier. Good luck.